It's 2025, and the biggest trend in enterprise tech is the shift towards custom AI. Rather than using one size fits all models, companies are looking for systems built to handle the unique needs, from automated workflows to tailor made insights. And as a result, many organizations are rethinking what AI can do for them. And this shift has led to the rise of vertical AI agents, AI tools that are focused on a single domain or function designed to tackle that area's specific challenges. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Analytics Inside. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Today, we are diving into one of the most exciting and sometimes misunderstood topics in the AI world, that is vertical AI agents. Now, though they are still relatively new, many industry insiders believe these specialized agents could someday rival or even replace traditional SaaS platforms. By zeroing in on a narrow set of tasks, they can deliver more precise results than any general purpose AI. So, today we will explore why vertical AI agents are not just a future but the fastest route to real impact. And let's welcome Gaurav Gupta, co founder and CEO of Carepay. Hi, Gaurav, how are you doing?
Hi Priya, I'm good. How are you?
Great, I am good too. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to have you on our podcast today, Gaurav. And to be honest, vertical AI agents is definitely a very new concept for me as well. And I'm really eager to know more about it from you. And I'm sure our listeners are equally excited and curious to know about it. So before we dive deeper, into understanding vertical AI agents and the impact that it's creating in the enterprise world today, I would like to know more about CarePay. So if you could help us understand more about the organization, its specialization, it would be great.
Yes, first of all, thanks Priya for having me on your podcast. I think you're doing great work, and I hope today's conversation exciting as your other podcasts as well. I'll quickly introduce myself and the company. I am Gaurav. I am the co-founder and CEO of Carepay. Carepay is building India's full stack fintech for healthcare. We are basically financial services in healthcare is quite broken, and I have been in healthcare for about a decade now. I've built a company previous to this which was also in healthcare, which became one of the largest in healthcare technology space. And from there I realized that financial services is quite broken in healthcare, and we're trying to fix that. How we're trying to fix that, I'll give you a couple of examples. Right, say for example, you as a customer, I can go to a electronic store, I can buy my iPhone on EMI. But when I go to a healthcare center, and if my treatment is not covered under insurance, then I can't pay for that insurance for my treatment in EMI, and I'm stuck. So it's that basic. So healthcare is broken from that perspective, and financial services in healthcare is broken from that perspective, and access to health gets restricted because of this reason. So our first product, what we have launched, is basically EMI product, which enables zero cost EMI to the patients at the point of care itself. So say I'm a patient, I'm going in for dental treatment, and my dental treatment is costing me about ₹1 lakh. So I can pay for that treatment right there at the point of care for at zero cost EMIs, and I don't have to essentially go and look for insurance or look for breaking my FD or anything.
Great. Thank you for that insightful overview, Gaurav. And definitely, I think you are addressing one of the pain points of the healthcare sector today. That how the entire the financial process and the routing and healthcare is so broken. And I'm glad to learn about CarePay and the unique value that you bring to the table. Now, let's build on that and dive a little deeper into your own role because behind every successful organization are the people steering its vision forward. You also have around more than 8 years of experience in building and scaling startups with a strong background in finance, strategy, and leadership. So, we would like to know more about you, Gaurav. How has your journey been till date? What exactly is your role and contribution towards the company, or what triggered the birth of CarePay?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share that. By my education, I'm an engineer and an MBA. I started my career back in 2010. That with my first venture, which was in enzyme technology space. I built that for about three and a half years. Then moved into consulting. I spent a few years in consulting, majorly in healthcare and pharma. Did different management consulting projects, strategy consulting projects, a lot of data analytics focused projects, and did that for another three and a half years. And after that, I went to do my MBA at Indian School of Business, Hyderabad. And after my MBA, I started another venture, a healthcare technology company, which was focused on building AI products for doctors. And essentially, we built an electronic medical record platform, which dealt with a lot of healthcare data. And we did analytics of this data for large pharma companies, and that's how we used to monetize, and that scaled very, very well. During COVID, we essentially our technology helped millions of patients, and there are very heartwarming stories where the patients were able to, we were able to save lives, critical organs of the patients because of the technology, because it was able to highlight what was required by the patient at that time. And we exited that company in 2022 and started CarePay after that. CarePay essentially was born out of this particular, requirement that we saw among the patients and doctors. Because we used to work with doctors at scale, we used to work with 25,000 clinics and hospitals. We realized that a lot of these doctors, essentially whoever is doing secondary care surgeries are the ones which are elective in nature, where patients are going in, but they are coming out on the same day out of the surgery. So they're not getting admitted. This category of the surgery is not covered under insurance at all in India. And that's where patients used to face a lot of challenges in payments, because insurance coverage is zero, practically zero. And I'll give you some examples. So these are dental, ophthalmology, is eye, ENT, dermatology, orthopedic, which is bones, and IVF, fertility kind of surgeries, where patients are not covered under insurance at all. And that's where we thought, okay, this could be a problem that we could solve. So we created a product which essentially patient just goes into a clinic, and at the point of care itself is able to do complete process on a real-time basis and get a zero cost EMI. And we've built some very interesting products to essentially enable this. We have a AI onboarding agent, Karina, that does it. And on other side, we have a risk scoring system called Oculon, which is able to analyze the risk on a real-time basis and essentially complete the entire process. As for my role, I'll quickly share my role as well. I am the co-founder CEO of the company. My core role is to drive the mission of the company. Our mission is that each patient should be able to get access to healthcare. And I typically zoom into this mission and try and understand what are the high impact areas that we need to work on, and then try and implement those pieces. Typical week goes in, in dividing my work into typically three parts. One is product. So I work on product, analyzing, understanding what are the priorities of the product, what is required. Second is customers, basically talking to customer, understanding their problems, making sure that we are able to find the right solutions for them. And third is working with different teams very closely, so that the coordination among different teams is done well in the company.
Thank you for sharing that, Gaurav. Pretty interesting and also inspiring to hear how your role and contributions have shaped the company's journey till date. And it's also playing a very important role in driving the innovation, the overall innovation and impact that we need in the today's healthcare landscape. Now, let's shift our gears to vertical AI agents. Now, vertical AI agents are designed from ground up with a sector in mind. They are trained on industry specific data, they are aligned to sector specific regulations, and they are built to speak the language of the particular domain. Now, for example, a healthcare AI agent isn't just analyzing symptoms, it understands ICD codes, treatment pathways, and HIPAA compliance. Whereas, on the other hand, a financial AI agent doesn't just crunch numbers, it can navigate anti money laundering rules, fraud detection, and credit scoring. So, many argue that the future of AI lies in vertical, domain specific agents rather than the broad general purpose tools. So, from your perspective, why are vertical agents particularly powerful in industries like healthcare?
Yeah, this is absolutely right, and completely aligned on the vertical AI being the way to go. See, LLMs and AI generally is very, very horizontal. They are built on large amount of data, which is very horizontal in nature. What we when we were building our AI agent called Karina AI, we really deeply thought that what is required for us. We realized that there are three things that are critical for us. One is context. That is the agent able to understand context? For us, context is both combination of healthcare and financial. So the agent should be able to understand that this particular activity or the role is for a patient and for a hospital. So there needs to be that deep understanding that, okay, this is about the treatments, about procedure. There needs to be an empathy there in the conversation, because these are patients and they are standing at the point of care at that time. So they are in a different stress at that particular time. So you need to be empathetic as well. There needs to be an understanding of the terminology on both healthcare side and financial side, because both are technical, industries which have specific terms of those industries. So the agent needs to understand that. They need to also understand whether they're talking to a patient or they're talking to a doctor, because in our case a doctor or a assistant to the doctor also works on the same agent. So that understanding, that context needs to be there. Also, context helps in reducing the hallucinations, right? So make sure that what is the next question and the sequence and how do you hallucinate less is basically there. Second is control. Control, essentially context, control and connectivity are the three things, right? So second is control. So control essentially is very, very important when you're dealing in an industry like financial services and healthcare. Both are high trust industries where you need to build trust, and it takes a lot of time in building that trust. And one mistake can, create a lot of impact on the trust that you're trying to build. So making sure that the control is there, the system understands rules, and we can encode the rules in the system, and there should be audit trails. The system should be able to explain the decisions. So these are the control factors which were important. And third is connectivity. The system should be, the AI agent should be well connected on both the sides. For us, two sides are healthcare and financial services, and there are DPI rails, digital public infra rails, on both the sides. So on financial services side, there are eKYC, account aggregator, KYC rails, etc. And on the healthcare side, there are ABDM, Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission rails. So these rails need to be connected to the system and also needs to talk to both lender APIs and the healthcare providers APIs. So that connectivity also was critical, and that could only be built once there is a deep vertical understanding of the system. So these are the three things which we basically realized, and that's why we thought that it's the best way to go ahead is go vertical. One interesting point here is that a general AI agent can give you responses, but the vertical AI agent can essentially give you outcomes. So if you're building an outcome driven product, go vertical. If you're building a response driven product, go horizontal.
Thank you for sharing that perspective, Gaurav. And definitely, I think you really highlighted why vertical agents are gaining so much of transactions because so much of traction because they're not trying to solve everything at once, but they are, deeply embedded in the nuances of a particular industry. And of course, you mentioned the three things: context, control, and connectivity. I think these three aspects are really important when we're talking about in industries like you mentioned, which are high trust driven industries like healthcare and finance. I think that level of specialization at what makes these agents, vertical AI agents, both powerful and trustworthy. Now, moving ahead, the people that I have met, that they feel like their software isn't just, just doesn't get or understand their business. I think they are not alone. Many organizations rely on generic SaaS platforms like CRMs, ERPs, or workflow automation tools. They are great. I mean, they're great for broad stroke efficiency, but they fall short when things get industry specific or dynamic. And I think that is where vertical AI agents come in. They are advanced, and these they don't just automate tasks. They understand industry aspects. They adapt in real time, and they even make intelligent decisions. But how exactly do they differ from the SaaS tools that we have been using for decades? So I want to understand from you, how does a vertical AI agent differ in value creation specifically compared to a generic AI solution?
Yes. So Priya, great question. I think this automatically drives from the last one. So as I said, one core point between a horizontal and a vertical product, say any SaaS tool, horizontal tool, as you said correctly, it's great for a more broad-based use cases. But once you go vertical, you can essentially drive outcomes, right? You can specifically really understand and build on the outcomes. So I'll give you a very very high level piece. For example, in our use case, right? For us, what was really important was that because it is healthcare financing, we understood that the core problem here was that patient is in a high stress environment and they get dropped off at when they are using a normal API based product. They are filling a form, and those their whole journey is tedious and cumbersome, right? There are a lot of documents that need to be shared. They need to complete different pieces. There are OTPs that they need to enter, and the entire system becomes complicated and cumbersome, and which ends up creating a bad user experience, leading to final drop off of the patient because of their current state of mind as well. So building out a vertical product essentially really solves that, because you are understanding that the patient is at that point, what is their exact requirement, asking the right questions, making sure everything is automated, the workflow is specifically designed for that particular patient at that point of time. So there is a lot of personalization that is happening, and with that personalization you are creating efficiency for the user in the end, and user is able to do the same journey. So in terms of number, I'll tell you, we had a turnaround time of completing this onboarding at about 9 minutes before we introduced Karina. With Karina, that time went down to 59 seconds. So the amount of time taken to onboard the user dropped such significantly because the agent is able to understand what is the exact question that needs to be asked. And then based on that response, it is able to take the decision and move to the next step. Right. So the overall journey becomes very, very efficient.
Definitely, that makes sense. And that was a really insightful breakdown. And of course, what stands out is how vertical AI agents don't just provide a one size fits all solution. I think they are in depth addressing the industry specific challenges, whether it's compliance or, diagnostics in healthcare. And it really highlights the difference between creating broad utility versus driving real measurable impact in a focused domain. And I think the distinction that you just made is what makes the conversation around vertical AI so exciting, because it's not about replacing the generic solutions, but it's more about amplifying the value where it matters the most. Right. So we discussed about, Gaurav, you mentioned that healthcare and finance, these are some high trust driven industries. And of course, when we're talking about AI agents, I think they are becoming increasingly useful to various industries, not just healthcare. We have finance, customer service and logistics, and many industries. Now, if we talk about these AI agents, they are designed to perform tasks autonomously, learn from data, and make decisions without human intervention. However, as the deployment of AI agents expands, so do concerns about the ethical implications, right? Because there are issues related to bias, accountability, and transparency, and they have come to the forefront because they require a closer examination of these agents. So, in a sector like healthcare, where privacy and trust are paramount, how do you ensure your AI agent maintains compliance, transparency, and ethical standards?
Yeah, a great question again. Privacy and trust are extremely important in this segment. So I think one core point here I would like to start with is that how are you designing the product, right? Are you designing the product with privacy and compliance as the core of it, or are they just add-ons to the product, right? That is the core difference, that needs to be taken care of. So for us, we essentially have built this entire product with this particular piece in mind, that privacy and compliance by design are the core tenet of this product, and without that we will not essentially do anything. So with if you have that as a core feature, then the whole training, the way the LLM is your AI agent is designed, the whole piece becomes extremely real. I'll give you one example here, right? By design, AI agents are probabilistic in nature, right? But in a product which is healthcare and finance related product, you can't have probabilistic responses. You cannot have a probabilistic system to take the decisions. It needs to be more deterministic. So balancing more probabilistic and deterministic becomes extremely important. So that is something which we from the start we decided that what information needs to go into the AI agent or into the LLM, that has to be carefully designed, and we decided based on XYZ information, the response will come in, and based on that response, our deterministic system will take over from there. And that deterministic system will then define what needs to be further given out to, say, an API, right? So that's how we designed a system where the role of the probabilistic system, which is an LLM, is limited to a certain part, and deterministic system takes over at the right step. And information which goes into the probabilistic system is also limited. So that being said, apart from this particular piece, of course there are encryptions, there are consent flows which are well defined, very very strict rule based access, segregation of PI is of course there. So all of these pieces are built in from day one when we started building the product. But fundamental difference that we did here was making sure that probabilistic system and deterministic system basically are well defined in their roles, and what information is going in which one is well defined from day one.
Definitely. Thank you for breaking that down, Gaurav. And it's reassuring to hear how much emphasis is being placed on responsible AI practices at your end because, in sectors like healthcare, where we discuss, privacy and trust are non-negotiable. And I think that entire framework, the privacy framework, truly makes all the difference. And I think what I find interesting is that today ethics or ensuring a well-rounded, secure privacy framework aren't just checkboxes anymore. I think they have become a core part of innovation itself. And yeah, I think it's not an afterthought anymore. Like you mentioned that, how are you designing the product? Are you keeping privacy as a core function or just an add-on? I think, it's no longer just an afterthought. I think it's important that organizations consider ethics, transparency, and accountability as a non-negotiable and should be part of the entire product framework since the start. With that in mind, let's take the conversation a step further. Now, we discussed about vertical AI agents, and I think in today's world, automation is everywhere. We have AI chatbots, we have robotic process automation, and now we have vertical AI agents. So organizations invest heavily in technology to drive speed, efficiency, as well as scale. But as automation becomes smarter, faster, and more embedded in operations, one truth remains: the human touch still matters. We are not in the era of automation, we are in the era of personalization. A company's strategic advantage lies not in automation alone, but in the fusion of human and technology. So the question isn't should we automate? Instead, we should ask how do we strike the right balance? And that's my next question to you, Gaurav. How do you strike the right balance between automation and the human touch in healthcare financing?
Yeah, another great one, Priya. I think one core point is because we are in healthcare and of course financing, but more healthcare, you have to have people. So our core, and when we were building this product, the way we thought about it is that let the bot do the paperwork and let the people do the caring. It has to be that sort of combination. That care comes from people and the agent does the paperwork. So the boring, repetitive, brittle work, which essentially takes up time, which adds to frustration of the user, which makes user experience worse. That needs to be done by the agent, and by the AI agent. And wherever there is a medical nuance of any financial counseling, or say on approvals, if you want to take an exception based on the specific condition of the patient, all of those things are there, then a human touch comes in. So our product is designed in such a way that the AI agent does the paperwork, and the bot does the paperwork, and people do the caring. So that's the core. So fundamentally, how we did this was we essentially defined clear workflows and the boundaries of the agent and what the agent will be doing in the whole entire value chain of the process, and where a human will take over. So there is a clear override, human override path that is built in into the system, and human can override. Apart from that, the agent also understands when to bring in the human. So they essentially, the system is built in such a way that the AI agent can essentially add one of our human agent to the system here, and the human agent can come in and essentially take over at the right time. So this essentially enables the overall efficiency so that our tag turnaround time is low and our NPS is high. However, it also makes sure that we are not doing over automation, right? Over automation is also risky in an industry like healthcare. So that is also taken care of in such a mechanism.
Definitely. I think the path ahead isn't about replacing humans with AI. It's about creating ecosystems where humans and vertical AI agents collaborate. But what's exciting is that this shift isn't 5 years away, it's happening now. And as enterprises experiment with horizontal AI, they're quickly realizing that vertical agents are the ones that deliver real value. They are not just assistants, they are domain experts capable of making sense of complexity and delivering outcomes. So when we say vertical agents are the way to go, I think it's not a slogan, it's a strategy. In a world where enterprises need precision, compliance, and trust, specialization definitely beats generalization. Well, thank you so much, Gaurav, for taking out the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that the future of AI isn't just broad intelligence, it's deep expertise. And the organizations that wait, I think they may find themselves stuck with broad tools in a world that rewards specialization. So, thank you so much. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thanks, Priya. It was awesome. Thank you for inviting me once again. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you, Gaurav. So, this is for our listeners. That's all for today's episode of Analytics Insight podcast. I am Priya Dialani, and I hope this conversation has sparked some ideas about where AI is headed and why verticalization may be defining the trend of this decade. Until next time, thanks for listening. You can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.